Ondřej Palát, a solid contributor at times, but not frequent enough to the point where he's worth $30 million. What should the Devils do with him? And are there any positive takeaways? We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play announcer, Devils Wire for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the more controversial players on the Devils roster. Why is this player controversial, you might be asking? Well, a couple summers ago, Tom Fitzgerald signed Ondřej Palát to a 5-year, $30 million contract. He has a cap hit of $6 million. And did I forget to mention that he also has a no movement clause? Considering the fact that his numbers are anywhere from solid to mediocre, people have strong opinions and emotions as to what Ondřej Palát is supposed to bring to the organization and at the price that he's being paid. We're going to reflect on his 2023-2024 season. I will play a few sound bites from his exit interview, and I'll talk about what maybe fans can expect from Palát moving forward, because he does have a history of stepping up his game when it matters most. But first, to kick off this episode, let's talk about how the Devils got here in the first place. Now, I know that I've talked about it on this show before, but just a refresher. Like I said, a couple summers ago, Ondřej Palát signed with the Devils when he was an unrestricted free agent. And why the $30 million deal? Well, let's recap. That offseason, the Devils were projected to be buyers. There were a few key players that were available on the market via a trade. Some come to mind: Alex DeBrincat, Kevin Fiala. Remember, Johnny Gaudreau was an unrestricted free agent, and the Devils were also linked to him because it was rumored that Gaudreau wanted to return back to the States and move closer to home. Well, where's home for Johnny Gaudreau? South New Jersey. Now, he did grow up a Flyers fan, but he's still in the state of New Jersey. People are saying it could be the Islanders, it could be the Devils, it could be the Flyers. But Gaudreau shocked a lot of people and signed a big contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Basically, Tom Fitzgerald was just in the batter's box and he was whiffing at everything, and he couldn't get a big-name player. It seemed like plans A, B, and C all fell through, and this was before Matthew Tkachuk was available in the market as well. And Tom Fitzgerald was just put into a corner. Ondřej Palát was available, and it seemed like the Devils were interested in him as well, but they were waiting to see how the Johnny Gaudreau signing turned out. And like I said, he decided to go to Columbus. And if I had to make an educated guess, this is just pure speculation on my end, I think Palát's people kind of forced Fitzgerald to give Palát a little bit more money, because they were like, we know that you were interested in us, but we also know that we were not your first option, so you better fork up some more cash. Otherwise, we're going to take our services elsewhere, and you're going to strike out on another potential signing and or trade. And Fitzgerald had to do what he had to do, because it was either that or plan C, D, E, F, however you want to formulate it, would have fallen through as well. Thus, Ondřej Palát, fresh off of appearing in 3 straight Stanley Cup final with the Tampa Bay Lightning, signed a 5-year deal with the Devils. And people are wondering, what does he bring in general to the Devils roster? Because that's where people start to ponder. Do you look at the points? Do you look at the advanced analytics? Do you just go from an optics standpoint? Here's what I noticed from Ondřej Palát. I think he is a pretty solid player when it comes to defense. Here's a concrete example. when he was on the line with Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt. Nico Hischier, he's the captain of this team. He's centering that line, and he is a phenomenal two-way player. Jesper Bratt, for the first time in his career, he was a point-per-game player, and he had an all-star season. But Palát, he focuses more on the defense when it comes to those two, because Hischier's job is to dish the puck, and Jesper Bratt is a sniper. He is quick, he is fast, and he knows how to rack up the goals, rack up the points. That's how that sort of dynamic worked. And hopefully I'm not a little controversial, but I kind of like the pairing of Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt better than I liked Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, even though Hughes said that he and Bratt are sort of like peanut butter and jelly. That's just my personal opinion, but I think Palát was a pretty solid glue piece, and I saw it on full display when the Devils were in Seattle taking on the Kraken. That line came out to play, and they were a big reason why the Devils walked away with a victory, because Palát, Bratt, and also Hischier walked away with at least a point each. But obviously, 5 years, $30 million, I think that's a bit of an overpay for someone who is solid at defense. I'm not saying that Palát is spectacular at it, but he's a complementary piece to Hischier and Bratt when he's on that same line. And people are just wondering, where can Palát go from here? Well, we're going to talk more about that in the second segment because, like I said, signed to a big contract. However, he has 2 Stanley Cups under his belt, and he just won gold for Czechia during Worlds, and he actually went off during that tournament. We're going to talk more about that momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you about Game Time. I actually use the Game Time app quite frequently to buy myself some baseball tickets, last-minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Flash deals, save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a great view of your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, before I break down Ondřej Palát's stats during the regular season and also playoffs, here's what Palát had to share during exit interviews when asked about his game, how did he like his performance, and where he can try to improve it. Take a listen.
Ondřej, how do you feel about your game 2 years into your contract?
I thought obviously not great year, not a lot of points, but like I said, I'm not judging my season on the points. I'm judging it on how, if I'm working hard enough, if I'm winning battles, if I'm setting example for the group, and I thought I did okay. Not great, obviously. So there's a room for improvement. Hopefully, I'll be better next year.
Where do you see yourself wanting to improve your game?
I mean, offensively, I would love to score more goals. I'm doing anything I can, but sometimes it's just not going to happen. So, offensively, I would like to improve my game, but like I said, I need to be better.
Like I said in segment 1, Ondřej Palát is anywhere from solid to mediocre. Here's how his numbers ranked during the 2023-2024 season. He had 11 goals, which ranked 9th on the team, 20 assists, 7th on the team, 31 points, 9th on the team. He had a plus-minus rating of -9, 30th on the team. He had 4 power play assists, 7th on the team, 49 blocks, 9th on the team, 92 hits, 8th on the team. He had a point share rating of 2.1, which was 20th on the team. Yeah, his numbers doesn't really jump out all that much now, does it? And people are wondering, what is Ondřej Palát supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to get excited for when I see Ondřej Palát on the rink? I'll play devil's advocate real quick. I think for Ondřej Palát, where he really thrives is during the playoffs or when he's on a big stage. I sort of alluded to it during segment 1 when I talked about him winning gold for Czechia. During that tournament, he appeared in 10 games. He had 3 goals, 3 assists for a grand total of 6 points. I think we can all agree that's not all that bad. And before I talk about his playoff performance with the Devils last season, here's what he did with the Tampa Bay Lightning during the 2022 playoffs. He appeared in 23 games. He had 11 goals, 10 assists for a grand total of 21 points. He was close to being a point-per-game player, and that season, in 77 regular season game appearances, he had 49 points. And if we go back a couple more seasons, during the 2020 bubble playoffs, he appeared in 25 games. He had 11 goals, 7 assists for a grand total of 18 points. That was the season in which the Lightning won their first Stanley Cup since 2004 when John Tortorella was at the helm. And if we go back even more, 2018, he appeared in 17 playoff games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. 2015, if you want to go even further back, 26 games, 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. Ondřej Palát has a knack for elevating his game when it matters most during the playoffs. And I think that's where the Devils were looking for in that sort of aspect. During the 2023 playoffs, he appeared in 12 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. That first series against the Rangers, he played a big part as to why the Devils were able to overcome a 2-0 deficit and beat the Rangers in 7. If you recall, what was the narrative? What was the storyline? Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, I don't think they were the stars in that series. It was a story of the role players, players like Akira Schmid in net, or Michael McLeod, Ondřej Palát, Eric Haula, all of them elevating their games during the playoffs, and Devils fans basically sending each and one of them an apology saying, we weren't familiar with your game. And that's when Eric Haula became a fan favorite. And I think that's when people started to turn around their feelings for Ondřej Palát temporarily, because that season he dealt with a groin injury and he missed some significant time, and he only appeared in 49 regular season games. And this is just speculation on my end. And I'm not in the film room sessions. I am in the locker room time to time when it's post-game, pre-game, whatever the case might be. But I think Ondřej Palát is a very intelligent player, but it just takes some time to get it going. I think the reason why he's able to elevate his game during the playoffs is something that I've talked about on this show before. When it comes to the playoffs in the regular season, it's a different animal. And in the words of Kobe Bryant, you have to be a different animal, but the same beast. Because you have to beat a team 4 times out of 7 in order to advance to the next round and then ultimately win the Stanley Cup. I think when you look back on those back-to-back Stanley Cup victories by the Lightning, Ondřej Palát was one of the more underrated players. Or during the 2022 playoffs, in which the Lightning went to 3 straight Stanley Cups, unfortunately, they ended up losing to the Avalanche. Palát still had a good showing. And once again, the Lightning played the Rangers at one point, and I think Palát played a huge role in that. Back-to-back years in 2023 for the Devils this time around played a big role as to why the Devils were able to beat the Rangers. Because it's like when you play the same team over and over and over again, you're able to see weaknesses, you're able to see holes, you're able to just break it down on a meticulous level, as opposed to the regular season when you face one team, you might not see that team again for another few weeks or months, however the schedule unfolds, or unless you're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, in which the Devils play them like 3 times in like a week span. Just a little bit of a joke, digressing a little bit. I think that's why Ondřej Palát is able to put up some solid postseason production, is because he's a very intelligent player and he can just see it from a different perspective. And that's why I think the Devils made him one of the alternate captains. And he's going to talk more about that in the third segment, but how he evaluates his game is just based on how he can also contribute in the locker room. And Palát being a veteran player and also having a couple Stanley Cups under his belt, I think that is really good for New Jersey. And I'm not trying to say that the contract is great, he's worth it. He's really not, but if he is stuck here for the next few years, you might as well just try to see it from a different perspective, because the Devils are trying to build a team that's made for the playoffs. And having someone like Ondřej Palát, who maybe his impact doesn't show up in the score sheet, but in different ways, maybe that's how you can view it. I know that's kind of a controversial take, but once again, Ondřej Palát is not going anywhere, and you can either complain about it or you could just try to embrace it. I'm trying to embrace it and just look at some positive takeaways. Now, before we continue and wrap up today's episode, let me tell you guys about Ultimate Hockey GM, a new sponsor over here at Locked On. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your own hockey franchise? Do you think you could run the Devils better than Tom Fitzgerald? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is most definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, and lead it to glory. Hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Devils fan, you know there is no offseason. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances, and that's why I think you are going to love the game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want, when you want. Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in-game store, so make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM, start your dynasty today. Maybe you won't make some of the same mistakes that Tom Fitzgerald has made in the past. Okay, during exit interviews, Ondřej Palát spoke on what it takes to win and his experience in the playoffs. Take a listen.
What do you hope are sort of the lessons learned of an 82-game schedule from last year to this year that you think is important?
I mean, it's more like learn how to win games. You know, there's so many games I thought we deserved points, but we didn't. We lost. We got scored on last second or the last period, and we didn't get anything. And then at the end, it cost us a playoffs. But it's just not that. It's just not the points. It's our game mentality to play good defense. I think we did a good enough job this season.
Looking at your current Tampa, obviously there were times where the team went to the Cup final, lost, and 2 years later missed the playoffs, then a couple years later win back-to-back Cups. What can you teach this locker room about? Sometimes you take steps backward to take steps forward.
Exactly, and sometimes you need to lose to learn and be better. And that's exactly what we did in Tampa. We had a terrible playoffs. We got swept. We look ourselves in the mirror. We made some changes. Coaches made some changes in the structure, and we took the defensive part of the game as a number one. That's gonna help us to success in this league. So that's what happened the next couple of years.
Here are some of the takeaways I want to get from some of his sound bites from the second segment and also the third. How Ondřej Palát evaluates his game is sometimes based on points, but also the battles and how he can impact the team within the locker room. And here are my thoughts on Ondřej Palát moving forward. The reason I conducted this episode is because the past few days, I've been discussing silly season and potential trade outcomes for New Jersey. And when I bring those silly season discussions onto social media, a lot of people are saying trade away Ondřej Palát for Jacob Markstrom, or trade Ondřej Palát for this player or that player and see what you get out of them. I know it's mostly a joke, but for any of you who legitimately think that the Devils can trade away Ondřej Palát, unfortunately, that's only a fantasy. Like I said in segment 1, he has a no movement clause. Ondřej Palát will leave New Jersey when Ondřej Palát wants to leave New Jersey, and that's that for the time being. I don't see him waiving his no movement clause to play for Calgary. He has to sign off on that. Why would he want to go to Calgary, especially with the championship experience he has and what New Jersey is trying to bring? And I do agree with a lot of people. Ondřej Palát is severely overpaid. A cap hit of $6 million for the next 3 years. Maybe if that was cut in half, I think a lot of people wouldn't be complaining, and that could give Tom Fitzgerald some more wiggle room in trade discussions. Maybe if he didn't have that no movement clause. But ultimately, Ondřej Palát is here, whether you like it or not. And the thing is like I said, there's no way I can twist and turn and just say like he is actually a really, really good player and you just have to see it in this perspective. I can't even do that. But the one thing I can say is like, I do think sometimes he gets a little overhated on. He's not meant to be a point per game player. That's just not how his game is formed. He just has to find other ways to contribute and also be a leader on the team. And he does elevate his game when it matters most, like I said in segment 2. Ondřej Palát is just a controversial player, and I think you just got to embrace it, and Tom Fitzgerald has to work with what he's being given. Have your own thoughts on Ondřej Palát and what the Devils should do with him moving forward, but your options are pretty scarce. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts anyway. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. Hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils if you're listening on a podcast streaming service. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. What do you think of Ondřej Palát? Share them down below. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.